Connecting with your audience in the digital world can bring up many challenges, as the communication is not taking place face to face but through a medium which gets you talking one way. In most cases, it's a wide net conversation because you may not be talking to or engaging directly with your target audience. Robert Louis Stevenson said, "Don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant." What seeds are you planting online? How do you keep an online audience engaged, entertained and buying with little to no resistance for years and years, so you don't have to keep looking for new leads and traffic? How do you turn strangers on the internet into superfans who see you as the only option to buy from because they trust you so highly that they buy whatever you recommend? Join me on this journey as we talk to entrepreneur, idea machine and master changemaker John Street as he shares how in an internet business world which usually uses hype, scarcity and lack of empathy to get people buying, John goes the other way and uses rapport and relationships to build his and his clients' businesses. Hello everybody and welcome to another Digital Rapport Master Series interview, and today we have John Street, who is phenomenal at creating massive impact with small audiences. And I'm proper excited to have a conversation with John today because he's going to drop some truth bombs, and it's stuff that I feel that everybody on the internet or the interwebs needs to hear. John Street, everybody. John, thank you very much firstly taking the time out and spending some time with me to help me out with this project that we're working on.
Absolute pleasure.
Just so the audience knows a bit about you, just feel free to tell us a bit about what you do, John.
So, do you want me to go back to the beginning?
Sure.
So I started in 2005, long old time ago, when I was the world's worst t-shirt printer, as my mum describes me. I had a t-shirt printing company that Dad had bought me all the gear. I was really awful at it for numerous reasons, but I broke my wrist separating two of my mates having a fight outside a kebab shop. So the lords of Stella Artois were smiling down on me. Broke the wrist, couldn't pull down the t-shirt printing press, and that led to me almost having an excuse to look into the internet stuff. So I started looking into the internet stuff. 2005 was an absolute wipeout, didn't know what I was doing, was buying from a lot of people who didn't know what they were doing either, but were claiming they did. I ended up spending probably about $8,000 of my dad and my sister's money, placing ads in different places. I bought licenses to a course on how to make money from writing. So it was teaching people how to publish their own newsletters, freelance writing and things like that, because I've always enjoyed writing myself. And placed that in Writers Forum or Writers News magazine. The ad cost like $1,000 or something. Didn't do anything. It was just one failure after another. And then in 2006, that's when everything started to change, because I really shifted away from almost the gimmicky stuff, which I'm sure you've seen is out there, right? Yeah. I almost don't like the term internet marketer very much, because you can get tainted with the same brush as a lot of the Muppets out there who are just selling, either the get rich quick rubbish or they're good people who want to help people, but they're not skilled enough or haven't been in the game long enough to see the flaws in what they're teaching. So I was, going around in circles, and the big shift for me actually happened. Have you ever heard of Brian Tracy or Zig Ziglar?
Yep.
Right, these guys are legends, but they're old school legends. Mm-hmm. And so my dad had an addiction to the company Nightingale and Conant. Yeah. Have you heard of them as well? They're amazing. They're not as big as they were, but in the 90s they were.
The cassettes and all that.
Exactly. Well, we used to laugh about the fact that so often Dad would have new tapes coming through the door from Nightingale and Conant. So when I was like 14, 15, I had no thoughts of ever running my own business. If I would have done at that time, I would have assumed it would have been taken over my dad's cushion shop. So I never had any, like some people say they were selling lemonade and stuff, or like my dad's, bless him, 85. And so he was, 4 or 5 during the war and stuff like that. As he was growing up, he would take the wood from the bombings, right, and build ladders from them. I mean, he was really young at this stage.
Right.
I'd say my dad is a born entrepreneur, right? I am not in any way. So if anyone's watching this and thinking, well, John was destined to do that, right? Or Jatinder or Amanjit or whoever that they're looking at was destined to do that. Sure, there are some people who were born that way. I think that they have that, they want money at a young age. For me, it wasn't that way. So when I was 15 or 16, I'd listen to, my dad would have audio tapes delivered and we'd all laugh and almost take the mickey out of him about, oh God, he's listening to his tapes again. And he'd listen to them on the drive to his work and on the drive back. And we'd all think he was crazy. Fast forward to, end of 2005, I've just had another giant failure, one of many in 2005. And I was sat on the edge of my bed and I said to Dad, should I give up? I think this was either after the advert in Writers Forum didn't work, but I tried a lot of things in 2005. I'd also tried, because I found out that 1 in 5 houses in the UK were on eBay. And I'd bought these my dad had bought these licenses to all these ready-made products. One of the licenses was to how to sell basically your junk on eBay. Now, ironically, we're in 2019. This is what Gary Vaynerchuk is speaking about in a big, big way at the moment. He's speaking about how his side hustle, right? Grab stuff from your house and sell them on eBay. Back in 2005, when I heard that 1 in 5 houses were on eBay, it was like a Del Boy, this time next year I'm going to be a millionaire type moment, because I had these licenses to sell this eBay related course. So I had 15,000 leaflets printed up, 15,000. We delivered all of them to these houses, and it was a leaflet that basically said, essentially said, turn the junk in your house into a part-time income. 15,000 delivered. I think I sold 1 CD-ROM. Right. They refunded on it. So it was either the Writers Forum ad or the eBay thing, and I was just broken. All my mates were taking the mickey out of me because back then you didn't start an internet business, especially my group of mates. They were all plumbers, electricians. So for me to even have the t-shirt printing business was pretty weird. For me to then say I'm going to start an internet business was, wasn't going to fly with them. So they were all taking the mick. Another failure. And I sat on the edge of my bed and I said to Dad, should I give up? And he said, you never give up on your dreams. And then he told me a story about the National School of Salesmanship, which was a course that he bought in, it's like with my pride and joy at home, 1954, I can see it on the front. It was like basically a course that taught door-to-door selling, right? That course changed his life. And he said to me, educate yourself, John Boy. And he gave me the National School of Salesmanship to read through. And I had been educating myself, but it was really the get-rich-quick crap, the business opportunity crap, the stuff that is the bottom of the barrel. That at the time I didn't know was the bottom of the barrel.
Sure.
I thought I was making the right moves. But going through Dad's National School of Salesmanship course, it was like, hang on a minute, I don't know how to communicate value. Right now, in the course, they were talking about communicating value about bags of coal, because it was that long ago. Sure. And the advice was, I'll never forget this line: a salesman should wear a trilby hat because gentlemen wear trilbies, and people want to buy from gentlemen.
Right.
Now, I'm not wearing a trilby hat, and I'm not selling coal anymore. But what I could see was the stuff that was being taught in that was still relevant. So that was a big light bulb moment for me. And then, so Dad told me to do that. He gave me a book called Think and Grow Rich, which is a classic. Although recently there's been, I don't know if you've seen this, there's been like almost a backlash to it because Napoleon Hill died broke. Have you seen this online at the moment?
Yeah.
Like the book itself is what the message is what counts. Not if he died broke. Does the message help? And the message really, really helped me. It made me realize I'm not my thoughts are part of this success. It's not just the skill set. It's what am I thinking? Who am I surrounding myself with? So I started to read all of Dad's old stuff, listen to all those old audio tapes, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar. And it was so different to the internet stuff I've been going through, which was all very, very tactical, very much click this button, millions of leads will come in, all that kind of crap. And that's where I really started to learn how important the psychology of selling was, how to communicate value. That then made me look at some of these licenses that I'd got, because there were like hundreds of courses. And it wasn't one of these cheap, I don't know if you were, anyone who has been around at 2005 will remember this. There used to be resale rights CD-ROMs that had like 500 crappy ebooks on it. Yeah. These were proper business courses that I had a license to. One of them was from a guy called Dan Kennedy,
right,
who's a big, well-known copywriter. And so I started going back through the licenses that were related to selling. And I'm like, this is amazing. First ad that I ran, and this is at the start of 2006, actually using proper copywriting skills, and I still didn't really know what I was doing.
Right.
$7,000 came in. And I thought, I've made it. I thought, that's it. I've made it. I've got this all nailed. I figured it out. I spent a fair amount of that. When you're 21, 22, especially, I look back, I wanted to spend the money to show those who doubted me. I've made it. So it was like this, if I'm flashing the cash at the pub a bit, they're going to shut up. That wasn't, anyone who, makes money, don't go and blow it on trying to impress other people. Then so I spent half of it or something on the impressing people. The other half I thought I'd reinvest. And this was a big painful lesson in paid traffic. I tried reinvesting it, it didn't work. So I'm back to square one again, and I don't really know what's happened. Then I read something, and this was such a game changer for me, and it's been the way I've operated ever since. And this is where the digital rapport stuff starts coming in. I read one of Dad's old manuals, because I tried listening to this guy before, and actually listening to him I couldn't listen to. You heard of Jay Abraham?
Yeah.
Now Jay he's awesome.
Yeah.
But he uses a lot of long words, and he repeats the same word in different contexts. And I found that hard to listen to, so I was like, I'll come back to that. Listen to Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, and everyone else. But then I thought I'd look into Jay again, and I was opening up the transcripts, and one of the first things he says, and this is such a powerful but simple strategic understanding. And I think that's the difference between a lot of the men and women who struggle, who are focusing on the tactical little things, like you've got to have an orange order button, right? That's not going to have a huge effect on your business if your business isn't set up correctly. So he opened the transcripts. It's on one of the first pages, I think. I've still got them at home. And there are 3 ways to grow a business. Get more clients or customers, sell them, like raise the price of what they buy or the amount that they buy at once, and sell them more often over a period of time. And this was the bit that gave me the big light bulb moment. He said, nearly everyone focuses on number 1, which is get more clients and customers. And in my head, and this is so relatable to traffic now, in my head I was like, that's what everyone's telling me to do online. It's all traffic focused, right? Now it's a bit more known that you want to try and increase the average order value. So that's where funnels basically come in. Upsells, downsells. We can speak about that later on if you want. But back then, everything was get tsunamis of traffic. Like it was all really, really traffic focused. Yeah. So I had this light bulb moment. Okay, Jay said most people focus on number 1, but number 2 and number 3 are where the real leverage is. So selling people more at once or selling them more often over a period of time is where the real leverage is. And that for me was like there's something exciting about that, and I wasn't entirely sure why at the time. Okay. Carry on flicking through a few pages, and he then says, and I'm going to butcher this, so I'm not going to get it exactly right, but he basically says, your challenge and your biggest opportunity is to keep in front of your customers and keep them thinking how important and vital you are to their success, happiness, and something else. Now, when I read that, it was like the two previous things connected together, the increase the amount of times people buy from you and stay in front of them a lot. I realized I haven't emailed my list. So all those people who bought the $7,000, I hadn't emailed them at all, right?
Right.
I'd been going out for looking for more traffic. So for me, and one of the reasons I hadn't emailed them is because I didn't want to be like the other people sending emails.
Sure.
Right? Who just, you get on their email list and it's not as bad now because people have kind of wised up a bit, but back then it was so bad. It was always, hey, my buddy's just released this breakthrough product that you've got to go and check out, or released this breakthrough video. And it's the best thing ever. And then the week later, it would be, hey, one of my buddies is just released, and they would just constantly promoting to you.
True.
Right? And making you feel like I'm just
am I missing something?
What? It's that, but also I'm just a transaction to them. You know what I mean? I would get that and I'd feel queasy and just like, they promised me that they were going to deliver me this value when I got on their email list in the form of a freebie. Yeah. The freebie was crap. And now they're just constantly promoting to me. So I kind of thought that was how email marketing was done. Right. Read that thing from Jay Abraham, your challenge and your biggest opportunity is staying in touch with your customers and essentially making them realize how important you are to their journey, how much you care. He calls it the strategy of preeminence. And for me, I took a step back and I thought about the people that I actually enjoyed getting emails from. And there wasn't too many, to be fair. But I was like, I need to email those people that were on my list. And then Jay goes on and he speaks more about providing value and things like that. This is strategy of preeminence. And so for me, this is where everything changed. Because before that, I was in the mindset of I need to go out and get more traffic. I need to be a traffic guy, right? When I read that, it's like everything aligned at once because I want to help people. I never wanted to bombard people. I never wanted to be one of those dickheads who just treat you like an ATM because that doesn't align with my values. Right? I want to have an impact on people. So what I started to do was I started to send a weekly email newsletter every single Tuesday. I also went out and I started to offer content to other people in order to get links back to my website and stuff like that. But I changed from being, I suppose you could call it transactional to relationship focused. Later on that year, this was the one that really changed everything because you'd think the $7,000 one would change everything for me. It kind of did and it kind of didn't. It made me realize this is real. But the fact that I then had to go out and try and get more ad traffic and I couldn't because it didn't work, I was left feeling like it was a fluke. In September, October that year, I promoted to the email list and it did 21 grand in 5 days. And I can still remember running up and down because it was I was in the spare room at mum and dad's. Mum and dad were downstairs. And I'd get, because I used to use AOL. This is how long ago it was, remember them? I'd get you've got email or you've got mail, whatever it was. And it was notification of payment received from PayPal. So I'd run down to mum and dad, oh my God, we made a sale. And I'd run back up again, another one would come in. And I'd run back down. And it was the craziest 5 days of my life because to see your bank account go from pretty much zero, I'd made some sales, in between January when I made the $7,000 and September, but I wasn't promoting a lot. I was just focused on serving. Right, what can I do for these? And I became almost like like Tim Ferriss is a human guinea pig. I became that for marketing. For the people on my list. I was like, right, I'm going to go out and test this and let you know how it goes. And I reviewed other products and I was brutal. I would say, like, look, avoid this, it's shit. And people loved that because it was just honest.
Got it.
Right? It wasn't, it was what they wanted. I put myself in their position. Empathy is so important in Rapport. I put myself in their position and I thought, what is it that I want? And what is it that I hate? I hated being bombarded. I loved it when people gave me content, and I liked it when people told me if something was genuinely good or genuinely bad, because it stopped me from spending money on crap or pointed me in the right direction. So if I reviewed something, I wouldn't get paid. It wouldn't be, hey, go and check this out. Here's my affiliate link. It was just like, this is pretty good. Go and check it out. Direct link, no commission.
Right.
I created all of this, I created this relationship with my email subscribers, and then in, as I say, September, October, 21 grand in 5 days. That changed everything for me, because that was the one where it was like, it was almost like a weight off my shoulders. I don't need to be like the others, right? Because there was, back then, ClickBank was big, and there was all these names of products, and I was guilty of one of these actually, but the names of the products were things like Google Annihilation.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Do you remember, were you around at this point?
Right.
I mean, it was,
I remember this.
It was mental. I came up with one actually that I forgot about, but a customer who was at my seminar recently bought this. This shows you that if you serve people highly, customers or clients will buy from you or hire you again and again. I did a seminar either at the start of this year or end of last year, and it was with a group of my customers, and one of them said, I actually asked them, how long have you been buying from me for? And I was like, 1 year, 2 years, and most people have been buying from me for at least 5 years, right? One of them had been, a few of them had been buying for 10 plus. One of them said he bought one of my courses, and I was like, what's the name of it, out of curiosity? And he said, Atom Bomb Marketing.
Oh, wow.
And it was Explode Your Profit or Online Sales or something. So I kind of got caught up a little bit with the Google Annihilation type stuff.
Yeah.
But that was the name of the product. The course was really good. But a lot of that, I didn't want to be put in the category of those ClickBank sellers who would get you on their email list.
Yeah.
And this is a big mistake that a lot of people make in the world of joint ventures. They will get you on their email list, and then because someone's promoted them, your product for a commission, but then you have to promote their products.
Yeah.
Right. So it's say, if you promote me, I'll promote you.
Promotion, whatever it's called. Yeah.
If you do that a lot with a lot of different people, that means you've got to keep promoting to your list. Is their product any good or not? Should be the biggest factor.
True.
You shouldn't just say, oh yeah, you can promote me, I'll promote you.
Yeah.
You need to know, is your product actually any good or not? I've done like 3 joint ventures in coming up to 15 years because there's so much crap out there, and I never want to, do my audience a disservice in any way by promoting rubbish to them.
Sure.
I'm always like, okay, how would I feel if I got promoted that and bought it?
So what was that first product that you said you got out there?
The $7,000 one or the...
Yeah, what was that first one?
The $7,000 one was the newsletter one.
Okay.
Right, so it was the one that I tried placing in Writers Forum. It was like, newsletter. It was how to make money from your writing.
Okay.
So basically how writers could start a new career.
Okay.
I placed an ad in a email newsletter.
Yeah.
And the sales just came in from that.
Okay.
But this is where it got complicated. When I tried to place the same ad in another email newsletter aimed at writers, it didn't work. And that's when I started, we can speak more about finding places to advertise, but you've got to be careful where you advertise and who you get in front of.
Yeah.
Because especially if you're advertising in things like email newsletters. Facebook is different, Google's different because they're big platforms. Yeah. But back then, there were a lot of people saying things like, yeah, I've got an email list of 50,000 writers. Do you want to advertise and give me $1,000? Mm-hmm. And you'd give them $1,000 and they would send traffic to your website, but it would be a software bot. Yeah. So it makes it look as though you're getting subscribers and traffic.
Absolutely.
Software bot.
Yeah.
So yeah, the original one was one of those licenses that I think my dad or my sister had paid $5,000 for. And it was all like expert-based stuff, but it was the second one that things really kicked in.
Right. And what was that second one?
I think it was a membership site where I would provide every single month. It was Online Protege Program, I think it was called. Every single month, I would basically provide content for your business.
Right.
So it was, because I took the licenses that I got the license to, I was going through it and I'd repackage it, I'd write stuff out in my own words and I'd provide that out to people. Right. And so I think I sold an annual license at $297 or something like that.
PLR kind of?
Yeah, similar to PLR.
Right.
But it wasn't it was so high level. Yeah. Like I had a guy, because you had the $297 pay annually, or whatever it was, $40 a month or whatever. and a guy was paying for that stuff for 3 years.
All right.
The content was really, really, because back then, if you've been around for a while, private label rights was huge.
Yes.
But for me, and it wasn't just content, there was, business courses in there. The big thing that people bought from that, by the way, because this is a huge lesson. I was one of the only people back then that was showing people, here's exactly how to build a website.
Right.
So back then, a lot of the recordings and products were like seminar recordings, people on stage.
Yeah.
But so they give you the overview, but how the hell do you get a website online?
Right.
So I was showing them, we're going back now, here's how to use Microsoft Front Page, here's how to use FTP software to get the website online, here's how to order a domain.
Right.
And what a lot of people were buying was because they'd get new monthly training, as well as the private label rights, they were buying look, here's the basics. So they were buying that almost as much, if not more so, than the PLR rights, because no one else was teaching it.
Got it.
So I was always in contact with the customers, and when I started to notice that's what people are, wanting, it was like, okay, well, let's give them that stuff. And I ended up giving away, in order to build my list after that, I ended up giving away a 2-hour video of how to build your first website.
Right.
So
it's teaching content, basically how to actually get the stuff done.
Exactly, the simple stuff.
Yeah.
See, because everyone immediately goes to, even now, what's the ninja tactic, right? Well, back then I was really super focused on newbies because I was one, and I was taking the human guinea pig position.
Right, got you.
But everyone else was trying to teach them the ninja stuff.
Right.
Loopholes, how to rank in Google in 48 hours.
Yeah.
I realized it's the simple stuff that they want. And one of the ways that I realized that was asking them.
Got it.
Like so many people are trying to come up with product ideas, and they're doing it from a point of view of, I'm just going to innovate something out of thin air.
Yeah.
Well, find out what people's problems are. And the biggest sticking point was, okay, I know roughly what to do. I don't know how to build a website. So you meet people where they are, rather than always wanting to come up with the
next new thing.
The next thing.
Got it. Do you know there's loads in there which we can pull out as we go along. Like with one of the kind of main questions we ask is, what is rapport? What in your mind is rapport?
It's a positive feeling between, a positive relationship between two people or one person, a group of people or a group of people. Like, one of my favorite quotes that pretty much my entire business is built around is the Maya, I don't know how you pronounce it, Angelou quote, people will forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Yeah. To me, that's rapport. Yeah. Whether it's, an individual, how are you making that individual feel in the moment, right? If you're making them feel like shit, well, there can't be rapport there. If you're making them feel positively, then rapport naturally comes. Now, if you then take that to an audience, same thing. How are you making them feel? And if you look back to, when I was getting those email lists, and people who are watching at home now will have experienced this even now. You get on someone's email list and you just get bombarded. Yeah. How is that? The person doing that isn't thinking about how that's going to make someone feel. Neither are these funnelers. Yeah. Who have endless upsells and downsells. Like, how's that going to make someone feel? If you actually just stop for a second and go, how do I feel when I go through one of those sales processes? Yeah. Right? You buy a product and then it's, wait, for just $29, you can do bang, bang, bang. Okay. And you're like, well, that's not too bad. Boom. No, I don't want the next one. So then there's a downsell. Then there's another downsell. And all of a sudden you're in this endless loop. And it takes about 5 minutes before you can get access to the product you've just bought.
That's right.
How is that making someone feel? So for me, rapport is about creating a positive feeling with another human being. That's mutual, right? You want to have respect for them. They want to have respect for you. But it's this positive feeling between you. Sure. And in business, as you're so rightly focused on, we're at a stage now where the internet is so disconnected that rapport is more important than ever, right? It's not about endlessly posting content. It's not about having a giant audience. The bigger your audience get, unless you do it right, which most people don't, right? The bigger your audience gets, the less rapport you're going to have with them. Because what a lot of people do is, so let's say I'm a weight loss coach, right? If I start posting videos to YouTube on one topic that's trying to solve one problem, right, in order to get traffic, I'm going to get people in with one problem on my audience, right? I then think, well, this is another problem I could speak about. So I get people on my audience who have got that problem. Before you know it, you've got people on your list who have all these different problems, and the content you send out isn't speaking to them individually anymore. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Like females who are over 50 are going to have different problems in the weight loss space to females who are 25.
Yeah.
Or men who are 35. So this whole idea of build giant audiences, post endless content, they're fundamentally missing the basic concept of rapport and being able to powerfully impact another human being. The broader you go, the less rapport you're actually going to have.
Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, because one of the whole reasons for doing this whole project and idea was exactly that, because of the emergence of social media and how everybody just on it. They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're doing all of this, just watching other people and whatnot, right? And it's just constant bombardment of information, so much noise, what we call digital noise, right? It's like, is any of that actually landing, right? Is it actually going through? And as you know, one of the questions I had was like, what are we doing individually as human beings? What do we do? And how are we going about connecting with us and building that rapport? And then the idea was that, okay, if that's how it's done offline, then shouldn't we try to replicate that to some degree online? Now, how do we actually make deeper connections, right? So with what you do, for example, because you've been in the online space for such a long time, and some of the other guests I've had, they've been more personal. They're like coaches, entrepreneur, business coaches and mentors and whatnot. So getting insights from them around the one-to-one kind of stuff is really good. But with yourself, it's like, it's cool. It's like, exactly how are you doing this online? So what would you say like the first kind of steps that people should take in order to start that initial process to try to make a connection with the audience?
Yeah. Major first one that so many people miss is understand them. And understand them in a way where you can say things that make them go, oh my God, this person gets me, right? The more disconnected the world has become, the less people feel understood. And we're more connected, but we're more isolated than ever, because people are hiding behind these perfect social media profiles. They're hiding behind the Instagram filters. I feel so deeply sorry for all those men and women who think that they've got to filter their photos to be accepted. Yeah. That is brutal. And no wonder anxiety and depression is going through the roof. Yeah. If people they don't feel as though they can be themselves. So the internet's been great in many ways. It's been a freaking disaster in others. And I actually think we're almost coming to a head now where people are starting to wake up a bit and realize we can't keep up like this. So you're right. The rapport is more important than it ever has been. If you think back to any time that you've felt real rapport with someone, it's because you feel like we're on the same level, right? We're on the same page. If you take that in terms of business to a problem, when someone has a problem, it's very, very easy to think, I'm the only one who's got it. That's not the right way to say it. Let's say I used to struggle so badly with social anxiety, couldn't leave the house, right? Over a period of a few years, my world went like that. And I had to have 4 pints just to go to the pub. Right. My dad would bring me home the Kronenberg and a box of 20 cigarettes, and I'd, pound them and then go to the pub just to lower the noise in my head.
Right.
Take me with the social anxiety days. when I was one of the books I read was called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, right, by Susan Jeffers, which is actually a pretty good book.
Right.
But, and this is what I mean by rapport and feeling understood and understanding your audience. She basically kept repeating the message which said, feel the fear and do it anyway. Just go out and face your fears, right? In my head, because it's a generic book, not focused on social anxiety, I start then justifying and saying, A, if I could do that, I'd friggin' well be doing it. But B, this doesn't apply to social anxiety, right?
Yeah.
So rapport, for me, the foundation of rapport is making people feel that you truly understand them, that this person gets me. If you start from that place, rapport's pretty easy, right? If, however, they think, well, you know, he or she is an expert, but they don't understand my situation. I'm unique, right? Or, you know, let's say in the weight loss space, a female might think, yeah, I get that this works, but I've got 4 kids and can't find the time to work out or cook these healthy meals, right? So if she sits and goes through a marketing message or process and the person isn't speaking to her on her level that makes her feel understood, rapport can't be built. Not to the level that it can and should be. Because the nature of problems is we all kind of think that we're the only ones who are really going through it, that no one really gets us. And we know that other people are, but the nature of the brain, we kind of think that they're not in the same situations as us. They haven't had the same background. They haven't had the same experiences. They're not in the same presence. We kind of justify things. So one of the things that I'm so focused on at all times, if you think, what I see a lot of people doing is they're focused on the solution and the product, right? I'm focused on the person more than the product, or because if we understand the person deeply and we understand their situation, their challenges, the emotions they're experiencing, we can communicate them in a way that they go, oh my God, finally, this person, someone gets me. They're then going to listen to us as an authority and we can lead them to the right solution. If, however, we're just banging on about the product all the time and they don't feel like, well, this woman doesn't really understand my situation, they're not going to believe in the product as much. So it starts for me with understanding your market on such a deep level that when they read your website, watch your videos, read your emails, go through your sales process, they're like, finally, someone actually gets me.
Sure.
Start from there. Yeah.
That's phenomenal. I mean, this is like, you know, it's like they say, everything that we do in life is all about people, right? So it's so important to connect with people. And one of the challenges, I suppose, is because when you're offline, we're sitting down, you see what's going on, we have this conversation and whatnot. Anyone you're in the vicinity of, you can see what's going on. So starting dialogue with them, you know, it's easier, you know, asking them questions that can happen, and you build that rapport a lot quicker. Now, when you're in the online space, it's like you don't really know who you're talking to, right? So, you know, if you don't know who you're talking to, like, what would you say is a good way to maybe get in front of those people, or how would you go about saying, okay, that's who I'm going to be trying to connect with, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. So a lot of the times when people come, if I'm doing consulting with someone, a lot of the times when people come to me is they're like, I've tried paid ads, I've tried to generate free traffic, nothing's worked. Okay, so I've kind of got a checklist to go through in my head of what I'm looking for. And one of the things that's that's present a lot of the times, it's very, very common, is exactly what you've just said there. They don't actually know who they're going after.
Sure.
And the almost, the amount of times I've heard this line, the logical thing that they think is, well, the wider my message, the wider my market. Right? So, you know, if someone comes, oh, I'm a digital marketing agency. Okay, well, who do you work with? Oh, anyone.
Anyway, yeah.
Well, your messaging will not make people feel understood based on that, right? So start with, if I was working with someone, I'd look at who does your story align with, your backstory, your values, the problem that you solve now, right? Who have you helped solve in the past? So I get them focused on the past story, because a lot of marketing is storytelling.
Sure.
Powerful storytelling in a way that builds the rapport, that makes people feel understood. I want to get people zeroed in on a specific problem and a specific group of people. Because if you go too wide, as I say, like we're in a world where people are feeling more isolated, more disconnected. But so that's one problem. There's an even bigger problem in that this, as you said, so much frigging noise. There is competition everywhere. Yeah. So let's say you see an ad or read an article online, and let's say you're a female in her 30s struggling with anxiety, right? If you read an article from a woman who's in her 30s and was struggling with anxiety but has overcome it, and as you read it, you're like, oh my God, she used to be where I am now. Like, it's almost obvious that you'll click the link to find out more, or because you feel understood. So it's about focusing. It's not about going wider, which is what a lot of people do. The more people I get in front of, the more money I'll make, the more sales I generate.
What do you think is the reason behind that? Why do you think people think is it would you say it's a lack of education, or would you say it's just greed driven, or what do you reckon? Or
I think it's because it's kind of logical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it's more, well, if I get in front of 1 million people, my business has more chance to be in success than if I'm in front of 1,000. It sounds logical. But let's say I put 1,000 of the most targeted people for your offer in front of you, right? And then put you in front of 1 million people who you sell to women and they're all men. Well, you're not going to be selling anything. So it's logical to think I need to go bigger. And also, I could rant about this for ages, but I won't. There's so many people telling them to go bigger.
Right.
Post endless content, someone's going to see it, and that's not one of my favorite words in business is efficiency.
Yeah.
Right. You don't want to be spending all day posting endlessly on Instagram, hoping that someone picks something up.
Yeah.
You don't want to be sending stuff to an email list of 10,000 people that you've built who all have different problems, and then you're not resonating with them when you send an email, and you just watch the unsubscribes go up. No one's responding saying thanks, and you feel ignored on a mass scale. That's what goes on with a lot of these people who are focused on building big audiences. It's brutal psychologically because you're trying to help people and no one's liking your Facebook post, no one's responding to your emails, no one's buying. And people internalize this, oh, it must be me then. No, you're listening to people who are what I call volume entrepreneurs. They're not efficient. They're like, yeah, just keep posting, grind, hustle. That is the worst. There are so many young people in their 20s who are hearing that grind and hustle message from numerous people. And I get why they're saying it. They're trying to install a work ethic in them. And work ethic is fine. If you want to succeed in business, you better be willing to work your ass off, right? It's not the flick a few buttons and then everything's fine. Business is hard, right? If you're not willing to put in effort, I get why they're saying that. Grind, hustle, put in effort. But they're not doing it in an efficient manner. And so therefore, there's these giant audiences being built that don't resonate. There's these... by speaking to everyone, you end up speaking to no one. You're vanilla rather than like my favorite ice cream is rum and raisin.
Right.
Oh my God, I could pound one of them now. That's a very, very specific ice cream, right?
Definitely.
Vanilla, everyone's kind of all right with it. You know, it'll do. But a lot of people don't love vanilla. They might love rum and raisin, or chocolate's more specific. You want to be the rum and raisin. Or the pistachio ice cream. I don't know anyone who likes pistachio ice cream, but do you see what I mean? You want to be specific. It's not, the internet is so competitive now, which means ad costs have gone through the roof. So if you try and compete in a way where you try and appeal to everyone, because it makes logical sense, you're toast. You're not going to. In the old days, 2005, clicks on an ad were like 3 pence, 5 pence.
Sure.
Now, you're looking at like $1 plus. It's so much harder to get paid ads working.
Yeah.
So if you go wide and try and appeal to everyone, you might get leads. So you might get people opting in. So it looks like it's working.
Yeah.
But then no one's buying because your sales message isn't resonating on the level where it makes them go, this person gets me.
That's interesting, because I just had a thought while you were just sharing that, in the sense that, like, if you look at what's going on in the world at this moment in time, right? We've got the different generation X, we've got the millennials, we've got, I don't know what's new one now, right? And media used to be spread through TV and radio, which was pretty much just, here's the message, send it out to everybody, right? But now, because of the internet, and because of the more digital realm, which is more binary to some degree, right? Do you think people are using an old mentality trying to target the millennials who don't quite get that, who are more digitally tuned in, right?
Yeah.
And then, like they said, bombarding people with just, do more of this, whereas ideally they should just be focusing on that one certain thing.
Yeah, I mean, let's take a step back and look at, think of the timeline of market, because this really is a great question, and it's really astute of you to pick up on it. When you look at the context of stuff, everything makes more sense. So imagine we're on the timeline now, 2019, go above the timeline, fly all the way back to, let's go way back to the 1960s, right? If you read the copywriting books, and they are epic copywriting books, I've spent, God knows, well over 100 grand on my education. It's probably around 300 grand now. I've stopped calculating, but about 7 years ago, it was 100 grand.
Right.
I'm always spending money. In fact, thinking about it, it's way over 300 grand. I'm always investing money in my education. Like, as Jim Rohn says, investing in yourself pays the greatest dividends. So, although on a side note, I have realized I need to be a bit careful about that in case I get a brain injury or something. Like, I've got to start thinking in different ways, just touch wood, but you've got to consider these things. So in the old copywriting books, it was mail order. So it was, you'd place an ad in a newspaper or magazine, basically what I tried to do in 2005. And the idea there was, you sell them something cheap, right? So that they buy from you, and then you have a customer list that you can then send stuff through the post to. Right. This is like the 60s. Then direct mail became big, and you could rent other people's customer lists to send sales letters through the post to them. But the way direct mail worked, still works, and it was a lot bigger back in the day. Let's say I rent a list, let's say you've got a customer list of 5,000 people, and I rent your customer list, and I rent 1,000 of them. I can only ever send one sales letters to that 1,000 people. Now what I want to do to get the most out of that, to get them on my customer list, because if they buy, they're on my customer list, I sell them something cheap in order to get the most amount of people buying. Right. So the idea with mail order and direct mail was, sell them something cheap to get them on your audience, right? And then promote other stuff to them. That's where the money was made. Right. Float back up that timeline all the way back to here. You got everyone talking about funnels, as though funnels are the answer to everything, right? Funnels are an old school, that's been around for ages. So Ryan Dice coined the term tripwire. That's just a low ticket offer. It's been around for donkeys. Russell Brunson really pushed the idea of funnels. That's just a way of maximizing order value and just acquiring a customer through the internet, in the same way that mail order and direct mail was. So when you look at it from that, like the timeline of it, you start to see why a lot of people who originally learned copywriting from the old schoolers, like I did, are still pushing the old school way of doing things. Because, well, that's the way it's done, isn't it? But I promise you this, if you look at a hell of a lot of those people who are following the old school model, they are focused on number one from J. Abraham, which was increase the amount of customers or clients. In other words, they're always looking to bring more people in.
Right.
They're not focused on the long-term relationship.
Got it.
And it's that in this day and age, if you want to survive and thrive, you better get frigging good at it. Because as ad costs go up, as competition goes up, as trust, as attention is going down because of all that, that rapport and relationship is key.
Yeah.
So you're spot on. If people are listening to the wrong people, and I'm not saying you don't use funnels or don't use low, I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying, see it in the context of how it used to be used. It was a way to get people onto your audience, so then you could make the bulk of the money over time. It wasn't the business. So many people out there think a funnel is a business. No, the funnel is to liquidate ad costs, right? So that if you can pay for advertising, you cover your ad costs, and here, the relationship portion is where the actual business is, right? If people are getting free traffic and sending them to a funnel, they're doing it wrong. If you're getting free traffic, you don't need to try and sell someone straight away. Build a bit of a relationship with them, rather than trying to sell them something straight away, because that will pay off in the longer term. So I'm very, very much longer term focused, not short term focused. And I think a lot of people out there are short term. They see everything as a transaction, as an order, as an order, rather than a human being with actual problems, with actual emotions, struggles, fears, hopes, desires. And it's just like, they're looking at the numbers. How can we get more people in? Well, if we had this orange order button, like that's the one that for me is like, fucking hell, they don't get it. They're so focused on the short-term tactical stuff that might make a tiny, tiny bump, rather than realizing, if I just treat people well and serve them, build a relationship, show them that I genuinely care and that I want the best for them and I'll do the best for them, they'll buy from me. So it's about thinking longer term, and that's where the competitive advantage is these days, I think. It's not, you've got to differentiate, you've got to have a great product, but think long-term relationships rather than short-term sales bumps.
So do you think we're heading in a direction now where it pays to be authentic, but just to generally be authentic in what's going on? Because we know the internet world is just bombarded with so much nonsense, so much vague kind of wordings and trying to pull you into something. You look at it and think, oh my God, I got X amount, I still got 20 other things I need to do before I get this thing done. So do you think that people are waking up to it, thinking, hang on a minute, well, how does this really work? What's going on here? Do you think we're trying to go into a phase now where it's almost like the internet is demanding us to be authentic now?
Absolutely. Finally. Like, I mean, when I see I've been very, very fortunate to grow up in an environment where my parents are my best mates. They are just amazing human beings. But they've always been about other people, right? I could tell you so many stories about my mum and dad, but they drummed into me from a very, very young age, like, be caring, right? Be nice. It's such like a simple concept, but I kept seeing it, and it wasn't just them telling me. Like, there was a guy who lived opposite us who, quite frankly, was a bit of an arsehole. Right. Mum and dad were the only people, I was living in Southampton, they live in Essex, they were the only people who went to his funeral. They didn't need to do that. Right. Mum takes the Holy Communion from the Catholic Church to the sick people in the community. Dad survived in business, I think it was like the mid-90s, early 90s, where the business started to take a real dive, because he was in a cushion manufacturing industry. Tesco's, John Lewis, they all started selling cushions. He had one client that he served over and above everyone else, and that kept the business going, right? So I've seen from a young age how important putting other people before you is, right? And in business, a lot of people don't do that. They're looking at the profit and going, okay, well, if we change this word here and this word here, and if we make that sound a bit better than it actually is, we'll get more people in. But if you buy something from someone and then they go, this is nothing like they said it's going to be, are you going to buy from them again? No. Are you going to refer them? No. Are you going to be telling people about them online? No. So the idea of authenticity, to me, I think there's a lot of fake authenticity out there.
Right.
I think there's a lot of people who think it's a marketing tactic. They're using it as a marketing tactic.
Yeah.
So they're trying to use vulnerability as a marketing tactic. Just be you and just genuinely care about them so much. Like, this makes me sound as though, oh, look how I'm like Mother Teresa. I'm not. Right? I can be an absolute arsehole, but I will always put my customers, I will always do what's best for them. So I think it was about 3 years ago, I started to notice, and I'd noticed it before, but I kept coming up against it.
Right.
That you can give people all the information and training in the world they need, but if their mindset isn't right, they ain't doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had an email list that was doing an easy 6 figures a year. Easy. I could have kept selling to these people and kept making that 6 figures. I'm not sure exactly how much it was. Probably 200 grand, say something like 150, 200 grand. This small email list was making me per year. But I knew, like, to me, if I kept selling them marketing training and stuff and they're not implementing it, that's not doing them any favors. So I said to them, look, you have to buy this mindset training to stay on my list, or I'm deleting you. A lot of them aren't interested in mindset stuff. Right? So I deleted that list. And if anyone didn't buy it, they were gone. Right. And I had people offering to buy the list from me, didn't sell it. That wouldn't be in their best interest, because all that would happen, if I'd have sold it to them, and I could have sold it for a lot. If I'd have sold that audience to someone else, they'd have just bombarded them with more marketing training, which isn't what they need. So I always want to put them first. Yeah. I always want to make decisions based on what's best for you, not what's best for me, which means my business hasn't been as profitable as it could be. It's still done very, very well, right? But if I got a business coach come in who was like, well, why don't you sell them this product? Why don't you sell them this? Why don't you do this? You could do all these things. I could make more. That's not in their best interests. So it's about being authentic, but not the fake authentic or the fake vulnerability or the fake. There's a lot of that being used as a marketing tactic. Anyone who's on my audience knows, I know what I get with John. John's just John. He is going to be brutal at times, because I'm not telling people what they want to hear all the time. I'm telling people what they need to hear. And I'm just me. And I think in today's day and age, when there's a lot of fakeness going on, and as you rightly said, people are starting to pick up on that. Yeah. People are starting to realize, hang on a minute, did he rent that Lamborghini? Yeah. Is that actually his, or did he rent it? Yeah. Does he really spend all that time on that private jet? That lifestyle type marketing that's being used a lot, right? And it has been, by the way, since when I started, the lifestyle was what was being sold. It was, here's me in my Rolls Royce, here's me on the first class flights, right? Because that's the easy sale. Yeah. I actually don't want people in my audience or crowd who are interested in that kind of shit. Because it's not true, right? Like that little snapshot of their life that you're seeing, you're not seeing if they have actually got a genuine business, the hard work going on in the background.
Exactly, yeah.
So when I said to my list, I'm always saying to my list, you got to work your ass off. I know some people don't want to hear that, but they need to hear it if they actually want to be successful long term. Yeah. Yes, authenticity, but genuine authenticity, not the fake stuff. Yeah.
It's an interesting one, because it brings about the whole kind of it's like that thing, right? The yin and the yang seem to always be hand in hand in whatever goes on, right? So it's like technology has got advantages in how we help humanity, but at the same time, it's like we said, we're talking about Instagram and social media. It causes anxiety and depression. People watching other people's stuff, right? Yeah. It's what do you think are some of the kind of like we said, the fake anxiety, the fake authenticity. I can never say that word.
Fake authenticity. Yeah. It's not an easy one.
So what would you say are like some of the other kind of dangers in regards to what, I don't know, maybe what's being used in terms of manipulation that people should be aware of, things that they can, arm themselves up against and think, hang on a minute, this is something not quite good.
How long have you got? first and foremost, if you get on someone's email list and they're not delivering on the promises that they said they're going to deliver on, stop paying attention to them because they don't care about you, right? There's so many big promises made out there that are just like, I have to be careful about this, especially with caffeine in me. I get angry because I've been doing this for so long. I can see the flaws in what's being taught out there. Now, there are a lot of genuine people who just haven't been doing this for long enough to realize that what they're teaching is flawed. That's one thing. I haven't really even got a problem with that because they're good people just trying to do their best. There are, however, a lot of other people who are so focused on selling the dream, the six-pack abs in 6 weeks. Yeah. And I fell for all of that stuff, by the way.
Same here.
Because it's the easy. Us humans want the easy route. Why, if you could get six-pack abs in 6 weeks, why would you want to hear that you've got to eat correctly, work out in the gym for 9 months? Yeah. When you can do it in 6 weeks, in 20-minute workouts. Like, that's what we want. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, it's not realistic in any way whatsoever. Yeah. So people need to have a check with themselves and go, okay, is this an actual realistic target for me? So if someone's telling you you can make £1 million a year in your underpants from some software loophole that's going to get you to the top of Google, you're an idiot if you pay attention to that.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it gets to the point, I've had people, I'm in a position where I get emails a lot from people who have spent a lot and been taken advantage of, and this is one of the reasons why I get so angry with it. You get to a point when someone keeps emailing you, making the same mistakes. Oh, I've just bought this, what do you think? And I'm like, why did you buy it? Like, I just look at the marketing of it, and I'm like, I don't even need to go through that to know it's crap. Because you look at the way it's being presented, is it being sold as the easy button and the dream? Now, there is a group of marketers out there who, I won't name names, but they are looking for how can we position this as the easy button? Here's the difference. If you sell easy buttons, you are going to attract easy button people who don't take action and then blame you for it. Which is that's actually not good business. And one of the reasons it's not good business is because you don't get a ton of results from it. You don't get testimonials, A, because you're selling something that is shit and doesn't actually work. B, the people you're selling to won't implement it anyway. So I think we're in an era now which it has to be much more results focused rather than who can scream the loudest about the latest shiny object. You know, sell something that actually works, get results. You will, like, I've helped people recently, Mike Samuels, David Keys, Xander Woodford-Smith. I've got all these people who I've got crazy results for. I literally can't work with all the people that want to work with me, right? Because the results, they do the marketing for me. Now, you compare me to a lot of people out there who are sat in their Lamborghini going, you can have one of these. If you're just willing to sit in your underpants and flick a few buttons, I can teach you how to be a Forex trader. I can teach. You're an idiot if you fall for it, because nothing worth going for in life is easy. The big flaw in people who want the easy button is they don't go on the journey, right? So let's say by some miracle, they buy an easy button and it actually starts bringing in some money, right? Here's what a lot of people do. I've made it. I'm going to quit my job. Everything's going to be fine in the future. So they quit their job, and then up here they hit an obstacle and they haven't built the emotional resilience, the mental resilience, the skill sets to actually handle this obstacle, and they crumble and fall apart. And then the most painful thing, they have to go back to their job when they went like that to everyone. Yeah,
exactly.
I made it. You could have. They have to go back to their old job with their tail between their legs. Exactly. I can't put food on the table anymore. Can I have my job back? No, you called me an asshole when you walked out. That, like, people want the easy button. It is not. You need to build skills, emotional resilience, the right mindset. That isn't a 30-day job. And what you'll find is a lot of people stay in this cycle for ages, right? Now, eventually, if they start to mature up, they realize, you know what, I've actually got to put some effort in here. And I don't care whether these are millennials, people in their 20s, or people in their 60s or 70s. You're never too old to make something work, right?
Yeah.
You might not want to have a business at that age, but with artificial intelligence and all this other shit that's coming down the line, people need to think longer term. People are living longer because of retirement, because of health thing. So there's all these people who think, well, I've got enough money to, if I live until 80. What if you live until 100? Like, I just think that there's a lot of people out there who need to wise up. So that's the solution to the gimmicks, the shiny objects. Just sit with yourself and just say, is this realistic? And a good question to ask is, if I put this kind of offer in front of Richard Branson or Jatinder, Amanda, John, are they going to go, yeah, that's good? Or are they going to laugh at me? And what you'll often find is the sexy stuff that seems like a must-have, if you put that in front of someone who's actually successful, they go, avoid it. Right? There are certain things that you can do online that work, that are strategic, that will, trigger people into buying stuff. That, for me, here's a good one. If we're talking about the marketing thing, you are always safe in people's psychology, right? Because as I said, I read through Dad's National School of Salesmanship, and it was pretty much all relevant even today. The coal thing and stuff like that changed, but a lot of it was still relevant. I went all in on psychology because that doesn't change.
Yeah, exactly.
Technology changes all the time. And what a lot of people are doing is they're trying to buy the latest technology thing that will fix all their problems. But if you're not triggering the buying decision, if you don't know how to do that, that is useless.
True.
So people who position funnels as the answer, if the funnel doesn't trigger the buying decision, that is a useless piece of kit.
True.
So master something that isn't going to change. And for me, it's psychology. And I know you're deep into this stuff as well. Master something that isn't going to change. Master something that's a skill that's going to last and actually puts money in the bank. And then use the other stuff.
That's where the rapport side is. You use the technology in a way that helps you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can leverage.
Exactly.
So these tools and everything, it's amazing for leverage and getting in front of more people and having an impact on more people. But if what you're plugging into the tool isn't triggering the buying decision, isn't speaking to people, isn't building rapport, the tool is useless.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is what I mean. This is one of the reasons I wanted to interview you, was because when we met, we resonated, right? And it was just the kind of truth bombs that you were dropping and sharing, and how you were open and willing to share that information, because a lot of people hide it, right? They think, I'm not going to tell them that's the best parts or whatnot, right? But it's actually the information that people need to know, because that's the stuff that, like you said, gets some results. So, it was just the fact that when we met, the information that you were sharing was I felt authentic, right? And I think I genuinely think it is, right? I really think you're coming from that space, and it's a service you're doing to humanity to, unlock the kind of hidden stuff and say, actually, guys, don't look at this stuff. This is what you need to be focusing on, right? So for that kind of stuff, it's amazing to get more insights in depth around that. So with from going from literally doing nothing and having this epiphany about the kind of relationship building along the way, right? And then you spoke a bit about knowing the depth, deep level, knowing your customer mindset and whatnot, and then genuinely supporting them to get them the results, right? What kind of things are you working on now? What are you doing these days? How are you helping people, and what goes on there?
So as I say, I'm very, very much against the build a giant audience type stuff. I think that is a fundamental flaw that is being spread by a lot of people, and it's resulting in a hell of a lot of failure. I do consulting and copywriting and working with people. It's primarily experts who want to have a big impact on the world. The way I look at things is, if I can take someone who's got a good heart and give them the right skills to be able to go and impact hundreds of people or thousands of people. I'm not even talking about a million. All this, build an audience of 1 million. Look, let's start small first.
Sure.
master being able to impact a small amount of people, and you can do it on a grand scale. But most people can't impact a small amount of people.
Yeah.
And yet they're focused on trying to build a bigger audience, right? It doesn't work. So the way I see it, if I can, help people who want to create positive change in the world, go out there and do that in a scaled way via what I call impact-centric influence. So influence has a bad rap, right? Until you think about it from the terms of your parents used to say things like, you need a positive influence around you, right? Influence is neither positive or, influence isn't positive or negative, it depends how it's used.
Yeah.
So impact-centric influence, I believe that if you impact, like it just, again, anyone who's watching this, ask yourself if this makes sense. If you impact people in advance of asking for any money, right? If you make them feel understood, if you provide them with, tips and ways out of their problem, if you give them hope, belief, and inspire them, does it or does it not make sense that they're going to want to give you money? Because out of a sea of people out there, you've spoken to them in a way that makes them feel like, oh my God, this person gets me and there's a way out.
And you showed them results to help them, to actually help them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the things that a lot of people who I've worked with love is I say to them, we're going to put together a sales process that even if someone goes through it and they don't buy, their life will still be better because of that.
Yeah.
That's where I think we need to be. We need to be focused on highly serving smaller groups of people, right? I think small traffic is the next big thing in business. I don't think you need to be focused on 1,000, 20,000, 30,000, 50,000. Like, start small, serve them highly, put their needs before your own, and watch what happens. And I'm teaching people at the moment how to. It's not just building an audience. Anyone can teach you how to build an audience. That's not actually that hard, right? But the thing that is not getting spoken about is, how do you impact them? How do you impact them? Like, not a marketing strategy, not, email marketing tactics, you put the link here and all. How do you actually impact another human being in a way that makes them want to go, I want to give you some money? If you can do that, you can have a small audience, you can have small traffic. And in a world where the noise, the competition is up and trust and attention is low, for me, that's the solution. And if I could have, 100 people sending out, serving 100 or 1,000 people, but they're impacting them, that feels like a pretty cool way to leverage all this experience I've had since 2005. Right. So that if I get hit by a bus, I know I've started something here. Because I think a lot of marketing, what I'm going to say here is, it makes me feel emotional about this one. So much marketing is about disempowering people so that they feel like there is zero hope if I don't buy this, right? Totally remove all hope from their life. Well, what happens if they can't afford it? Yeah. There's a lot of people out there who, if you followed their marketing strategies, you are basically making a lot of people feel like shit and leaving them there. Like, you might have all the money in the bank, but if you've built it that way, is that really, when you look back on your deathbed and you got the Rolex in your big mansion, but you realize you've made a load of people feel like shit, that's not, I certainly don't want that. So create impact-centric influence, empower people through your marketing, and then watch like the sales come in effortlessly. Because, and here's another big point, something that so many people miss is who is making the offer to someone changes the actual offer itself. So if I'm walking down the street and a guy walks up to me in a sandwich board, right? It's got Luigi's pizza on it, and he says, "You got to check out Luigi's restaurant. It's just opened in town." Yeah. I immediately know he's a salesman, and I don't know whether to believe him or not. Of course, he's going to say it's the best pizza in town. Sure. He's trying to sell it. Yeah. Right? Compare that to if I walk past that guy, carry on walking up, and then I see a friend I know who we've got similar tastes in food, and the friend says, "Oh my God, we've just come out of Luigi's. That's the best pizza I've ever had." If you like pizza, you're going in based on that recommendation. And this comes down to the rapport. You want to get into the position with your audience of being like a trusted friend rather than a salesman. Because if you're a trusted friend, if you're someone who's provided value, impacted them, actually helped them in some way, then when you make an offer, right, it's a no-brainer. You don't need all the whiz-bang, massive long sales processes and all the marketing strategies and everything, because simply by the fact it's you making the offer, the buying decision is, I want it. Yeah. That's where we want to get to, right? Rather than having to try and use shitloads of persuasion and influence and everything, get to the point where when you make an offer, whatever it is, people are like, he's making it, Jatinder's making it, I want it. John's making it, I want it. Get to that position and everything becomes simple again. If, however, you focus on software loopholes, gimmicks, all this traffic, you're not going to get there.
No, I'm so glad you said that, because it's one of the things I share with people. Is like, why are you doing all of this million social media type of things, right? What's the ROI on that? Why you do? What's the point? So I'm so glad to have this conversation with someone who shares that mindset as well. That, but it's based on results, because I know the kind of results you've got for some people as well, right? So it's amazing that you've said that. Like, you can focus on just a small amount of people to get, like you said, the massive impact and effect on that.
Exactly. And there's something else on that, by the way, in terms of the. Again, I tell people to actually step into reality a bit, right? And look at what backs this up. If you look at the ROI on different marketing strategies, email is like, I think McKinsey did a study, email is 38-1 ROI, right? So for every dollar you put into an email marketing type strategy, 38 out. If you look at paid ads, it's way up the other end, right? And I've worked with some of the top traffic experts on the planet, and they're trying to get $2 out for every dollar they put in, right? So paid ads, $2 out for every $1 you put in. Email, $38 back for every one. Why? Because email is an overtime process.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Social media is also more up this end of the spectrum rather than this end. Why? Because social media, if you do it correctly, you get into the trusted friend position because it's over time.
Yes.
So, you don't need, I just don't think you need to gimmick your way to do stuff. Serve people highly, put their needs before yours, and people will tell you others about you, right? So I've told people about you. I found out about you through David Key. If you two, you and Amanjot, if you were dickheads, like it just seems, I wouldn't be telling anyone about you. But because you care, because when you edited my events, you guys went above and beyond, because you're good human beings, because I know you genuinely care, it's effortless, right? There's not a long buying decision to be made, right? And I will hire you again and again and again and again. You guys demonstrate what Jay Abraham was talking about number 3. There are 3 ways to grow a business: get more customers or clients, sell them more at each point of purchase, but also sell more over the time. You guys are able to sell more over time because of the service you deliver, because of the place you're coming from, right? The thing that so many people miss is getting a customer that one time, or that client the one time, or a subscriber that one time. That's the most expensive point in the business. So if your entire business is built around that start of the relationship, and there's no overtime thing, there's no rapport being built over time, you're building it at the hardest possible stage and at the most expensive stage. So you guys I'm not in any way surprised that you're doing this because you live it. You do this stuff. And it just seems logical to me. And that's why I say to people, step away from the gimmicks and focus on relationships with human beings. And if you do that correctly and you're coming from the right place and you're selling a good quality product or service, right? That's often a bit that people miss as well. Can't sell shit. If you're selling good stuff, you're coming at it from the right place, you're putting their needs before you, you're serving them, you're impacting them, you'll get into that trusted friend position rather than that slimy salesman position that all those people who are just bombarding their email list. They're the slimy salesman. They're the one who are like, you see what they're doing, you're like, no, I don't actually believe them. Whereas if you said to me, John, and this has happened, right? You've said, John, you've got to check out this book. I'm like, okay, done. I'll read that on the beach.
Right.
It was just for a holiday, right? When you trust someone, and here's the key point, it's not just trust, you know they understand you.
Sure.
That's the other side of the equation. Because you can trust someone, but if in your own head you think, yeah, they're a good person, but they don't get my situation, then the rapport's still a little bit on shaky ground. Right. But if you trust them and you know that they get you, and especially if they get you if they start writing emails or sending messages, or in the sales process, they say things and you're like, holy shit, it's like he's in my head. Like I get emails from people who say things like, it's like you're in my head. Like you know me better than me, or I'd never thought of it from that way. That's when the sales become effortless. Get in that position rather than trying to funnel hack your way anywhere.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It totally makes sense. It's I can so relate to that, because it's like when I look at what I've done over the years, I've always come from that kind of place. But generally, because to me it's about connect with people.
It seems obvious.
Man. Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's the thing. It seems obvious.
Yeah.
When you're so you. This is going to get deep for a second.
That's cool. We want to go deep.
When you come at life from a place of abundance and giving, right, and you just got a good heart, things in general, if you do it correctly, seem less effortful, seem more effortless, right? If you're coming from that place. What a lot of people are coming from it though isn't a place of abundance. They're actually coming at business from a place of scarcity. And there's bills to be paid, maybe there's staff that's got to be paid. And because of that, they're so focused on the short-term money. And I get it, like I'm not, when I say that they need to grow up and mature a bit, that's brutal, they do need to hear that. But at the same time, I do get it. Don't for one second think that I didn't buy shit when I was starting out that was like the stuff that people are promoting now. But I think I was very, very fortunate that I grew up in a household where if I wanted £10, mum or dad would give me £10. I haven't really had that lack mindset. Sure. I've also had it programmed into me that you do good for other people, like you clearly have. Now, not everyone has had that kind of background, so therefore there's more of this scarcity mindset of, I need to almost trick my way to sales. I need to almost trick my way into, and there's a mindset of money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are assholes. Like there's a lot of weird beliefs around money. But if you just think about it logically from a rapport standpoint, from a relationship, a connection standpoint with other human beings, business can become simple again.
It's true, man. It's true. Do you know, John, we can go on all day, man. Seriously, it's one. Seriously, I think one of my. I don't know. I think we've had relationship. We've known each other for centuries or something, right? And it's just we could just carry on talking forever. And I really, really appreciate that, John. If people want to get in touch with you, what's the best thing for them to do?
So they can send me if they want to get in touch via email. They can send me a personal email on contactjohnstreet@gmail.com. That's contact and then Jon. I'm a Jonathan rather than a John. So contactjohnstreet@gmail.com if they want to get in touch. That's another thing, by the way. I do respond to emails. Some people they respond to emails. So if they want to get in touch, they can do. And then johnstreet.com. If they get on that, they'll get on my email list and they'll get world-class content sent to them every Tuesday and Friday. Right. That's the way to approach it.
Cool. John, it's been amazing.
Pleasure.
All right, and I'm sure we'll do plenty of these in the future.
We're going to have to.
Right. I want to thank you for taking the time
Pleasure,
out. I'm sure people have got a lot of value out of that.
Good.
So thank you very much.
And thank you, because I wouldn't just do this for anyone.
No, I appreciate that.
I do this because you embody everything that I've been speaking about. So I want to thank you and honour you for who you are, because that's why I'm here.
John, it made me cry, man.
We better cut.
John, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Ladies and gents, I hope you enjoyed that. And there's loads of information in there for you to kind of devour, as they say, right? So stay tuned and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.